started working at a fruit shop just randomly, and then saw in this local business's story that they were looking for a content creator, and I was like, you know what, that would be kind of fun.
We at Kick are hiring.
There was 170 applicants, I believe. I just sent them a video as my resume, and then I got the job.
You've not grown up with the brand, you know, you are quite new to the business. So how do you build that trust with Steph and Laura?
For me, it was really important to build sort of a friendship with them. Like, even though they are my bosses, to build a friendship and to get them to trust me with my sort of experience and my knowledge of like Gen Z and the TikTok culture. And so for them to understand what works, I think they had to take that leap of faith as well.
What advice do you have for creating bulk amounts of content? Is there a process that you follow?
The process for me is
Alice, welcome to Top of Mind. I am so excited to talk to you, and I think, but not as excited as the rest of my team are, to pick your brain about all things content and all things Kick. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited to get into the world of content creation and specifically your role now at Kick. Now, you've grown the TikTok channel by 75% by bringing that brand personality to life and constantly creating, you know, content that just is relatable, it's funny, it's engaging. What do you think your number one tip for creating an online community is?
It's a very, very good question. And firstly, wanted to say, like, it's not just been me behind the scenes, like, doing all the work. It's obviously the girls being so amazing, Steph and Laura, being like the best actresses that they can be. So it's a team effort, but yes, the 75% growth has been pretty epic. I think my number one tip would be stay authentic, stay real, and don't be afraid to like lean into what makes you unique. So for us, it's the thing that sets us apart is the fact that we are a business that takes such an intense stance on diet culture, and like our mission is to help people improve their relationship with wellness in themselves. And so for us to lean into our opinions on things and really push that opinion out into the world and take our stance, people really love what we do. And I think that's what makes us different, and that's what we've done to lean into it. And also just bring in the joy and the laughter of like being human and being real. Yeah. That's my number one tip.
I love it. And I think, I know you said before it's not just you, and that's very humble, but I think that, you know, yes, you've got obviously Steph and Laura who are, you know, fairly well known, but you are probably, or like the team of, you know, creators that you have there, you guys are the ones coming up with the ideas and putting it in front of them. And I think that it takes, you know, as a business owner myself, it takes a certain element of trust in your team to be like, hey, don't make me look like a fucking idiot.
Oh my
right?
God.
So it's like,
so true.
How do you build that trust with Steph and Laura? Because you've not worked there for years and years and years. You've not grown up with the brand. You know, you are quite new to the business. So how do you build that trust with founders that perhaps hadn't done anything like this before?
Yes, it's a very good question. I think before I started working there, they probably weren't as into doing some silly kind of content. So when I first started just being like introducing myself and getting them knowing who I am. And for me, I think that that's really important, building a relationship outside of just creating the content.
Yep.
So for me, it was really important to build sort of a friendship with them. Like, even though they are my bosses, to build a friendship and to get them to trust me with my sort of experience and my knowledge of like Gen Z and the TikTok culture. And so for them to understand what works, I think they had to take that leap of faith as well. So I don't think it was me giving everything to them. They did have to be like, okay, let's just give it a go, try something new. So like, credit to them for just trusting me in that initial part. And then everything started to go really well. The views were coming in, and so I think that they were kind of like, okay, cool, we've taken a little step to silliness, to fun. All right, let's do another step. And since then, it's sort of just been a little bit further and further and just occasionally pushing. It wasn't like 0 to 100 immediately. So I think that's how it's worked.
Easing them into it. Right?
Exactly.
Like, I think also it's something we were just talking about before we started recording. It's like, you know, one of the things that I've been talking about a lot with my team and also our clients is that confidence follows action.
Yeah.
It doesn't come before you do the thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really good example of that, where you know, tried stuff, you've had then the results of, you know, people engaging or following or
Yep.
liking it. And then you do it again and you just kind of rip and repeat, because then that action will build the confidence that comes from it.
Exactly.
So your background then, before you joined Kik, because how
Yes.
long have you been with Kik now?
So since January last year, I think it's been a year and 4 months.
If you love this episode, help us to grow and reach more people by hitting the subscribe button and leaving a review. Amazing. So you've not been with them for very long.
No.
What were you doing before?
So before I graduated school in 2019 and then was going to go on a gap year in 2020, but we all know what happened. And so second
You're
half
making
of
me
2020.
feel very ancient, by the way.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. Second half of 2020,
Yeah.
I started working at a fruit shop just randomly, and then saw in this local business's story that they were looking for a content creator, and I was like, you know what, that would be kind of fun.
Yep.
So I applied. I just sent them a video as my resume, and then I got the job, started working there. Then I got another job from the founder of that business, was friends with the founder of another business, got a job there and started working there for the next like year and a bit. Then at those businesses, I was literally just doing like Instagram reels and just random like business content. Then I started doing some ads on Facebook and really working with that agency on how we can make our ads more engaging and make them more fun and a little bit more feature based to sell the products, because they were both e-com clothing brands. And then I randomly got sent this application for Kik. I reckon it was December 2022, and randomly got sent like from a bunch of people the job offer, and I was like, that could be fun. I was looking to change, but I wasn't looking for a full-time role because I was still doing uni at the time.
Okay.
And so then I just applied. I was like, you know what, like, why not? Seems like a fun thing. I never really engaged with the brand before because I had my own fitness journey and I was like part of team sports, and I don't really follow many influencers. So I didn't really like follow Steph or Laura. Like I knew of them, but I didn't follow them. And then I applied. There was 170 applicants, I believe, and got through the first round to the phone call, second round to meeting the girls, and then we got given a little task because they were like, oh, we just don't know. We know that your experience and we know your knowledge is great, but we just don't know what you can do for our business in the wellness industry, because we know your experience with like clothing brands, but it's very different to an app and like a service-based brand. So it's like, can you give us some examples of what content that you would put on our page? So I did, send it off, and then I got the job, which was kind of crazy.
I love that story, and there's so much that I want to unpack from that.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry if I went on a little bit of a tangent.
I love it. I'm sitting there being like, okay, ask her about this. So I want to go back because it's something I get asked a lot. Now, I went to university for marketing. It's a question that I get a lot, being like, do I go to university for marketing or not? I have an opinion of the fact that like going to university opens a door for you. So does working 3 years in the industry opening the door for you. So I think that there's, you can do one or the other. And it also depends on how you learn. Like if you're not a textbook learner or you don't like going to classes, you're not going to learn anyway. So you may as well go and do 3 years in the industry and get your foot into somewhere and learn on the job. But when you applied for that role with the video, it's something I talk about all the time, because one question I get a lot of is university, do I go? And then secondly is, how does my resume stand out? And I'm like, your resume is something that they ask for that gives them an understanding of, do you tick the boxes that we're looking for? And what experience do you have? But my next part of that, and somebody that has hired a lot of people over the years, is what are you going to do to stand out?
What makes you different?
Absolutely. And it's like everybody at the end of the day is going to apply with the same set of skills, because that's the type of role that they're hiring for. But what are you going to do that's going to make you stand out? And I think one of the best examples that I've had, I mean, I love the idea of sending a video, because obviously they're looking for a creator. They're looking for somebody that is going to be creating content. And, if you're then submitting it in that format, they're like, she gets it. One of the best examples I saw was this girl that had applied for a role that was predominantly TikTok based. and she created an entire TikTok profile that was her resume. And each
That's
video
great.
talked to like different examples. What advice would you give to other girls that were in, you know, perhaps a position that you were in when you first started around standing out and, you know, whether it's with their resume or how they apply for jobs or how they interview for jobs? Is there any advice that you'd give to younger you?
Yes, to younger me, I would say I think I did it really well, and I'm proud of that. I think what I did really well was being authentic to who I am.
Yeah.
So in my video that I did use to put in, it was very me. It was fun. It was real. I put in bloopers at the end. I was just like so honest with what was happening. I actually did like a little room tour, and I was like, the best way to get to know me is by doing a little room tour. Here's my room. And it was so dirty and like it was not clean at all. And I was just like, I know that Kik is about being real. And so this is me being real. So it was me showing myself like my actual self, not being a fake version of me, not being the version of me that I think that they would want to see, but being the actual me. So that's what I did, I think, really well. And then also just including within that video like all my skills, but not showing.
Yeah.
So all my skills, like my editing skills, my transitions,
Yeah.
the ability to like story, take the viewers on a journey.
Yeah.
So all of those skills were shown,
Yeah.
not told. So I
Yeah.
didn't say I can do storytelling. I actually told the story.
Yeah.
So I think that was also really good. And then obviously I attached it to my resume at the bottom of my resume and like also had the experience and the professional side of things. So
Yeah.
I think what I did really well was balance the professional and the fun part of me. So yeah.
Which I think is funny because professional is a term that I really struggle with and
Yeah.
have struggled with for a really long time.
Yep.
Especially working, you know, in the business now where, you know, a large part of our business is creating personal brand content for people on LinkedIn, which is a professional forum.
Yep.
But I think professional to me is just you doing your job.
Yes.
Right? And it's like when you show up to work, you don't just talk about it and you're like, hey, I'm Alice. I talk about content creating all the time, blah, blah, blah. You turn up and you might talk about your history of playing sport. You might talk about the things that you were doing on the weekend. You might talk about the things that you're really passionate about or the trends that are happening on social media because you're interested in it. And I think professional you shouldn't be too different to private you
Yeah.
because it's how you turn up at work.
Exactly.
Now, with that, I have a question that's probably a more selfish
me?
question. When you met Steph and Laura, you didn't really know them. Like, it's not like you were a huge fangirl before
No.
you turned up.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what would be like
Yeah, I
more
don't know.
manageable.
Yeah, I when I first had the first round was a phone call, and on the phone call
With them?
No,
No.
so it was the girl who was hiring
Yep.
me, and on that phone call, I did mention I was like, look, I want to be honest with you. I know the brand, I know the girls, but I've never really followed it,
Yeah.
and so I feel like I just want to be honest with you right now before we get to the next stage that I am interested in this role, but I don't really know what's going on in the business. I haven't really followed it ever.
Yeah.
I'm happy to learn. I'm willing to learn, but like I just don't. I've never followed the girls.
Yeah.
Like I've never been really interested in that sort of side of social media and don't really let that affect me. So then when I got to that next stage where I did, so the interview in person was with Steph and Laura
Yep.
and the girl who was hiring me. And so I like just mentioned it there as well. And I was like, hi, like nice to meet you, you know, and I was like, look, I haven't ever followed you, but you know, here I am wanting to do this job and I love what you guys stand for. I've done my research and I think this is a business that would work for me.
Yeah.
And then I think sort of, I don't know who else applied, but I think from working there for a while now, it is important to just see them as normal people and not like as a fangirl, because they do have like a lot of people who love them and that is so amazing. But for my role specifically, I have to tell them when they're not doing a good job and when they need to refilm something.
Yep.
So I think it is important for me to be able to feel comfortable telling them to redo something, to make it better,
Yeah.
to change this, to do that. And I think it was good that I didn't come from a super like anxious position
Yeah.
where I was like, I want to impress them. I want to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
everything perfect. Like that just came from me being an employee, not a fan of them.
Yeah, I love that. And what were your first impressions of them?
That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like they were really nice. I feel like what you see online is genuinely what you get in person. And I don't know how else to explain it because like so many people ask that question, what are they like in person? What are they like in real life? But it's honestly whatever you see, you get.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
Yeah.
What's on the tin, you know, like they say what they do on the tin. I think it's like, it's a really nice thing. I think, especially having worked in businesses that, you know, you meet the founders and they're like, you know, we're all about people and we care about people. And then you spend 2 weeks in that business and you're like, no, you're not. You lied to me. And I think it's really nice to get into a business and it's quite evident that, you know, you didn't need to be a fan of the girls or the business, but your values intrinsically aligned. Yeah. And, you know, how important is it? I mean, you're still quite young, but how important is it going into a workplace where the values are the same, you know, and you share similar values? You don't have to have everything in common. You don't have to have followed them or be their number one, you know, hype girl. But how important is it to have those values align?
I know this is like, I reckon it's probably my 4th proper job, which is kind of crazy that I've landed this position. It's like pretty cool. But I think from my previous experience, which I acknowledge is quite little compared to other people, I do think that from now on, I would really focus on being in businesses that I do align with their values, because what I've seen from my work is that I'm so much more passionate about what I do. I enjoy what I do when I go to work. It does feel like work sometimes, but most of the time I'm very lucky where it is something that I'm like really passionate about doing and improving, and like empowering women is such an important thing for me, because I know sometimes in my life there are women in my life who feel maybe less than. And so for me to realize that the work that I'm doing is improving that every single day, it's pretty amazing.
It's a win-win. I think it's a really nice place to find yourself in. It's something that I feel really lucky to be doing as well. Like I get up every morning and I'm like, there are parts of my job that I'm like, you do have those things where you have to do the things that you're like, hey, I'm not as passionate about this, but I think it's really nice to be in a place that you're like, I love what I do. I like where I am. Like getting up and being able to do this every single day is exciting. Now, you mentioned before, just before we move on to the next couple of questions, but you mentioned before about, you know, learning about TikTok ads and ads on Facebook and things like that, and figuring out the best way to kind of get the results that you're looking for. If people are running ads on social media, what are 3 pieces of advice that you can give them that you're like, hey, like your content needs to do X, Y, and Z? Or do you have like a set of non-negotiables when you're coming up with contents for ads in particular that you're like, hey, it needs to do X, Y, and Z?
So firstly, I think it depends what business you are, what product you're selling. I think when I used to work at an e-com brand, we had physical products, fashion. I think for us, the best things that worked were trying on the clothes on real people, and real people having conversations about what they're feeling like in the clothes. And we did really, at my old business, we focused on the feeling and what the features were and how it improved, you know, how it improved someone's life if they bought that product. And it also, I think it's just like the fact that there's people on the other side of the screen. So we talk about like UGC, and now there's like EGC. Employee generated content, just in case anyone doesn't know. And
those playing at home.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for people to connect with other people, to buy from like a face, a person, rather than a business. And so I think that's like the number one thing, having a person in the thing, in like the ad. Then, so that's number one. Okay, number 2, you really put me on the spot here.
Sorry.
Number 2, I think features. Like what makes your product unique? And why should people buy it? And then number 3, I think just being, again, I'm gonna like say this until my voice runs out, authentic and adding value to someone's life. Like, is it engaging is it entertaining? Is it educational? Or is it like emotional? That's my 3 things that I'm really focusing on at the moment. The 3 E's I like to remember.
Oh, I love that.
And so that's probably my 3rd thing. Like, what value is it adding to someone's life? Because they're going to be seeing it through an ad. But like, how can that person stay, and why should they watch the rest of it? What value are they getting? Oh, one more, 4th one.
We love this.
The
bonus.
First 3 seconds. Yeah, bonus one. The first 3 seconds is the most important thing in any kind of content that you're creating, especially an ad, because an ad is so obvious most of the time to people watching, consuming, that they will scroll. So what are you going to do in that first 1, 2, 3 seconds to make them stop scrolling?
I love it. I love that advice because I think, I mean, it's something that we look at all the time. You know, when we look at businesses that we're working with, there's a huge amount of content out there that's just like text on a page, and you're like, I'm bored. Like, if I'm not going to look at it and be like, that's cool, or that's going to stop me from scrolling, like, what are you going to do that's, you know, and I think it's really important as well that you mentioned people, because I think at the end of the day, people are more likely to buy from people. They trust other people.
Exactly.
They, you know, resonate with other people. And it's the same as, you know, you can have Kik as a brand, but then you've got these faces, you know, Steph, Laura, you are now one of those prominent faces in the brand that people recognize, and they're like, I see myself in Alice, or like I can, you know, Alice represents like who I am, or like what I like doing, or, you know, perhaps what I look like, or how I feel when I'm training, and those kinds of things. I think some of the videos that I've seen of, you know, the content that has gone up of you really embody this like everyday person that's like not, you know, super invested in health and fitness, or doesn't live and breathe it, but like knows that it's good for you and makes you feel good.
100%.
And is that something that, like, when you applied for the role, or when, you know, were you going through the job description and things like that, was being on camera part of that job description?
It's a very good question. I think in the JD, the job description, I like to call them JD, I don't know why.
No.
In the JD, it did have being comfortable in front and behind the camera, but it was never a forced thing. It was never like your face should be on the brand, like you have to be in front of the camera all the time. It was sort of just like, I saw that employee content, like my boss, my Gen Z employer, my millennial boss, like that kind of content was working. So I started doing that content.
Yep.
And then I had literally no idea where it would take me. Like I genuinely went back, we flashed back a year, was probably the first few times. Like, yes, I did a few, like maybe one or two a week, I put my face on them. But it sort of started like this time last year, where I was like fully getting in them and fully being like, my millennial bosses, blah, 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 you know, like that. And that kind of content people really resonated with, because it was humorous, it was fun, they could relate. And I don't know, it just felt like I wasn't even putting it out to the rest of the world. It just felt like I was putting it out and like getting my best friends to comment on the post and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't actually my best friends, they were random people, but they just felt like friends, because they were all so supportive. So like the community that we've created on TikTok is honestly like, we don't really get any negative comments ever.
I love that. And you've kind of grown, you know, your own brand within that community, right? Like, I think, as scary as it sounds, like by the nature of you putting yourself in those videos, people then start to, as I said before, like recognize you and resonate with you and feel as though they have this friendship with you or this relationship with you, and you have no idea who they are. How has that been, like, getting used to like people recognizing you and wanting to take like pictures with you and things like that? Like, even me, like I have a small following, but every so often someone will walk up to me and be like, I follow you on Instagram. And I was walking with my mum a month and a bit ago and she doesn't get what I do and hasn't for a very long period of time. Neither of my parents do. And this woman walked up and you could kind of see that she was like making eye contact. It doesn't happen very often. But when it did, she was like, I follow you on Instagram. Like, you know, when you post in the morning your workouts before you go to work, like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you always forget that there's people behind the platform, like 100%. Real people following you. And my mum was like, does that happen all the time? I was like, no, like it doesn't. But how do you feel about people knowing you, people having a relationship with you that you're not aware of, and are people asking you for photos and things like that as your brand has grown through Kik?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think for me, it never really felt like it was me being popular, because it was always not. It was like, it's never been my business. It's like the girl's business. So it's kind of weird for me, because it's like, it's not like I've grown my personal accounts to a certain amount where it's like people are following me, but it's sort of, they are following for me and Steph and Laura and like the whole Kik brand.
Yep.
So it's never really felt like mine. So it's never really felt like I have all these fans and I have all these followers. But over summer, I think, so September, I did this whole London campaign thing that went extremely well, but it got a lot of views. And so there was a lot more people that were on our account. And then over summer, the past few months, like I got recognized so many times and because I'm still young, I'm like going out with all my friends and like doing all these fun things and, you know, going to Taylor Swift and going out to a pub and like all these random things. But like I would get recognized at least like once a week. And then like we have our kick events and people come up and ask me for photos.
Yeah.
And it is just crazy. Like I love everyone that's come up to me so far has been just like gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous humans. They always say the most positive things and it is such like a positive experience.
Yeah.
But it does feel a little bit weird because it's new to me.
Yeah.
To have these people know who I am without me knowing them.
Yeah.
So I always am like, what's your name? Like,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Try to get to know them because then it feels more real.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's new to me. So it's a little bit weird. I feel like the first time it happened, like over summer, I asked the girls, I was like, guys, you need to give me some media training. I don't know what to say in these situations. Like, what do you do? So no, it was good. They're really supportive. So it's really nice.
I love that. And I mean, it comes back to your thing that you said originally is like authenticity, right? Like you have grown this brand or persona of yourself, but just being yourself. And I think there's nothing more special than that because you don't have to pretend to be somebody that you're not when you do meet these people in real life.
It's like, I don't have to put on a fake personality.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest compliments I've ever received. And you may have as well is like, oh my gosh, you're exactly who you are online as you are in real life. And I think there's nothing more complimentary than someone's like, oh, when I follow you, I have this image of you in my head, but then when I meet you, you're an asshole. Versus, no, you're exactly who you say you are
100%.
online. And I think that's such an important thing for anyone that is looking at growing a brand or a business or their own personal brand online is being who you are in real life online and vice versa. Now, you mentioned before around you haven't really grown your own social channels or, you don't have a huge following on your own social channels. It's kind of, you've grown this brand through the Kick brand.
Yeah.
How do you feel about creating content for yourself personally? Because I know like my team that create content all day, every day for not only our business, but then also our clients' businesses. They're editing reels, they're writing captions, they're taking photos out on shoots and things like that. There are times that they're just like, I couldn't think of anything worse than posting my own content on my own page. How do you feel about your own content?
I don't know. I think that at this point in my life, I don't want to do my own content. I think I have so much going on in my personal life, like just with friends and uni and work and like just relationships and everything like that. I feel like I want my time outside of work to just be so present and not have to think about, oh, I could take a photo of this meal. I just want to be present in eating with my friends and stuff like that. And so for me, it's not a priority at the moment to build my personal channels. And like my Instagram's on private. Like I have one singular TikTok up on my TikTok page. Like I don't have an interest at this point in my life. I'm not saying I would never do it, but I just think at this point in my life, it's not something that I really want to do.
I love that because I think there's such a big misconception with people that, are in your field of work that are like, that's all they do is they just create content all the time. And I think, even when I'm out with my friends, people are like, well, you take the picture because like this is what you do all the time. Or like, or like,
that happens so often.
Yeah. Or like there's the food flat lay of like all the food that we've ordered and everyone's like, it's all right, Hayley's going to take a photo and she'll like post it and tag us all in it.
Yeah.
And I think there's this huge misconception. Like, when I first started building my brand online through Instagram, I was sharing a huge part of my life and I feel like that's how I grew my relationship with my community. But then they got to a point probably like, I think it was as I got older and it was like, I actually just want to spend my time doing me, like getting to know my friends and family without a phone. And
100%.
I still love taking photos and videos. Like I'll be the first to take a photo of a nice meal or a drink that comes out or whatever, but I'm not posting it straight away. And I always say like, whilst my camera roll has 150,000 photos on it, which is terrifying, I'm not posting all of those. And I think sometimes having like, so much of your life online and a lot of what you do for work is online, having your own space and your own privacy that's just yours, it's really nice.
Yeah, I really like it. I think a common misconception, and I can so relate to you when you say like, oh, with your friends, oh, this is like Hayley's job, she can do it. Like I get that a lot when I'm with my friends. It's like, oh, Alice, take the photo. Like you know the angles, you know the lighting. Like where should we stand? And I'm like, I'm off duty, guys. I'm off duty. No, I like it. I love my friends and they're so supportive. But I think sometimes I want to just switch off and I love that I can do that with them.
Yeah.
Like my friends are really awesome at that. And I think some of my friends who, I feel like it's not like my immediate friends, it's like the friends like one layer away. They're like, oh, she'll just be like taking photos the whole time, or like whatever we see online is like everything that we get from her. But I think that you don't really know, because like there's so many photos on my camera roll. Like I love creating content and I love documenting my life, but I think not everything needs to be shared.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm pretty selective with what I do share outside of work.
Hey guys, if you are listening on Spotify, do not forget to give us a 5-star rating. It will help us to reach more people. I love that. I think it leads me to the thought that I had before as well, is that, Laura, who works for me, she, applied for the social media account manager role. And one of the things that drew me to her application was the fact that she was so present on socials. Like she was creating content on TikTok herself. She was creating content on Instagram. And I was like, well, she gets it because she's spending time on the platform. So for someone that doesn't have a brand outside of that, like where did you learn those skills? Because if you're not constantly sharing stuff on your own platforms, how did you develop those skills? But then B, if I am looking at hiring someone for social media, perhaps they're my own biases, right? Like I immediately go, okay, well, what are you doing for your own brand? So what advice would you give someone like me that looks at someone and goes, can you do social media? Oh, you don't have your own social media presence. Therefore, it doesn't necessarily equate that they don't get it, because it's very evident with the fact that you get it and you know what's going on. So first part of that question, I suppose, is how did you learn your skills if you're not doing it for yourself?
Yeah.
And then secondly is, what advice would you give to business owners that are looking to hire somebody for content creation if they're not looking at their own content creation or their own personal content creation?
Okay, first one.
The first question was, how do you learn your skills, or how do you hone in your skills?
I remember. Let's just do one at a time.
Okay.
First one, how did I learn my skills?
Yeah.
In year 12, when TikTok first became a little bit of a thing, and it was embarrassing to have it.
Yeah.
I think 2019 was when I was really early on it, and on my free periods, I would just make TikToks with my friends. It was so fun. Before parties, we would do transitions, and every single time we were getting ready together. Everyone would be like, okay, Alice, what TikToks are we doing tonight? What are we doing? And everyone was so really enjoying it. And it was such a fun time for us to get together and learn a dance. Or this is when it was a full dance platform. Charli D'Amelio hadn't even existed at this point. It was early. And so that was really fun. And I really loved creating content then with my friends and learning the TikTok platform, what was trending. But we didn't post anything. Everything
all drafts.
went to drafts or just posted to private. We did not post one of them.
Okay.
Firstly, we were slightly embarrassed because, teenagers.
Yep.
But I never really wanted to post any of them. But that's how I learned to use TikTok a lot, was just with my personal profile. And then throughout 2020, I was TikToking, but posting everything to private.
Yep.
Because I didn't want to put it out. I don't know why specifically, but even still now, I think that a lot of the things that I want to do outside of work, I just want to keep it private. So that was just it's not like I'm embarrassed for people to see that.
No.
Because I'm a pretty confident person and I do that with my normal life, but I just don't want to share every part of my life.
Yeah.
So that's how I learned those skills, and then always just documenting my life throughout. When I was growing up, I did media classes and learned how to use Premiere Pro, and then still now I use a lot of editing software, CapCut, Premiere Pro, TikTok, Instagram, use it all, and I love doing that. It's so fun. The editing is so fun because I feel when I'm shooting, I can vision how it's going to come to life.
Yeah.
And then seeing it come to life is just a hit of reward.
Yeah. You're I'm a genius.
Yeah, I'm
creative,
this is just the best.
Genius.
It's so fun. So it's really all self-taught. I didn't really learn any of those video editing skills or anything like that at uni or really at school. It was mostly just in my free time doing it.
I love that.
And then second, advice for business owners. I think this is a little bit difficult because I've never really sat in the position of hiring someone.
Yeah.
But I would say take the time to get to know the person.
Yeah.
and what they value. I know it's hard because obviously you're going to get like so many applications for so many different roles and stuff like that. But if the application is strong and they do have like a strong video, I think for me, if I'm applying or if someone is applying to me, I want to see that they've done something new specifically for me. Because that means that they want the job. So like, have they created a video and in that video it's specific to, I want to work for you, Hayley. Because that shows that they really want the job. And then from then, if they didn't have their personal profiles like built up, because I fully understand if you like go and see that, it's like, bang, you're amazing. Like I can see immediately what you're doing. You're not embarrassed by what you do. It's like, that's awesome. But I think that also seeing that some people might value their privacy as well. Is like super beneficial. And I completely understand. Like it's a bias we probably all have.
Well, it's just really something that hadn't crossed my mind until like I obviously, you know, saw your content on the Kik platform, and then I was like, oh, this girl is really interesting. Like I wonder what she did beforehand. And I'm a naturally curious person. So I was like, whilst I love the content that you were doing for Kik, I was like, I wonder where she came from because she's not been with them the whole time. Like it's not like you grew up with the brand.
No.
And then that's when I started doing digging into like, where's her Instagram profile? Like where's her TikTok profile? And it was like pretty non-existent. And I was like, wow, like for me, an internal bias, I was like, naturally I would be like, this girl is not a good fit because she's not creating content for her own brand. And it made me check myself because I was like, you're so right. And I think that that's probably why you've got to where you've got to so quickly within, you know, the industry, is that, you know, as you said, when you first applied for that role, you didn't just submit a resume, you submitted a video that talked about why you wanted it. And I think being creative, and I think there's other ways to prove that you're good at what 100%. You do than just having your own brand or like your own presence on social media.
I think it's important to do that if that's something that you value, but also there is a way if you don't want to do that. Like that is not the only way. No,
I love that. I love that. Now, one question that I have from my team that were like, you need to ask Alice this is, how do you create bulk content? Now, I told you beforehand that my team block out like an hour or two in my diary every week when we're in the office. We're in the office 3 to 4 days a week, depending. But when they block out that time, I'm like, cool, I'll give you an hour of my time. They come with like all of the things that they want to shoot and all of the things. They don't give me a heads up of the things that we need to shoot. It's like, these are all the things that we're going to do. And 90% of the time we do them within the hour and then they've got the content that they need. What advice do you have for creating bulk amounts of content? Is there a process that you follow?
Okay. So the process for me is continuously improving. But I think it's been working really well. We've done it sort of for about a year, I want to say. So my bosses, super busy. They both are in the business, like hands-on every day of the week. And they are in the office all the time, like doing a lot of work in a lot of meetings. They have their own work to do. So when I do get them, it is like limited time. What is really good about where I work and my bosses is that they see the value in TikTok.
Of course.
So they see the value in spending time making videos, which is so important. I think over the past year, they've seen the value like that it can bring. So that's been really good. But since the beginning, they have seen the value, which is awesome. Then what we do, the process for me is that like over a week's period, I'll like jump on TikTok, find some trends, find what I think will work for us this week. I think it's been really good lately that we've been turning around the trending content really quickly, which means that obviously it can perform better. But yeah, so what we'll do is I'll create a list of things that I've seen or that maybe some people have sent me, like in my friends' chats, like, oh my gosh, someone sent this, and I'm like, oh my God, we could use that for Kik. Because I think what's so important is that everyone has a different For You page. Like I'm speaking specifically for TikTok here. Everyone's page is so different. And it's like, what can we do? And how can we translate that for Kik? So I'll write a list and then we'll get to Thursday, which is our working from home day. Steph and Laura and I will be in the office. Usually it's just us. Sometimes there's other people that have come in, but this is our TikTok day. So we spend 1 hour on a Thursday, lucky to get the time, 1 hour on a Thursday, and we just smash through everything in the list that's possible. Usually I'll make a list that's too long for the hour, but we have to cap it at the hour. Because in case we get something done really quickly, we always have more to do. And I think that that's worked really well. But what has has been growing over time is the ability for me to direct and them to perform. That has been a very this time last year, or like when I started, we weren't really amazing together because I was seeing a vision and I wasn't being able to articulate it as amazingly. I think for me, I'm like a show don't tell person.
Yeah.
So for me, it was always like, okay, do it like this, and I would do it physically, which helped so much. So from the start, like working together, obviously we were still getting to know each other. I think we clicked pretty quickly, which was epic. But like obviously your skills refine over time. So I think that I've gotten so much better at directing them, telling them what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And naturally I am a blunt person, and they sort of know that already. Like they knew that coming into it. And so I think that that's worked really well to save time.
Yeah.
I'll be like, now we need to get this done, this done, this done.
Yep.
And if they've done something wrong, I'll just cut them in. I'll just stop them before
You're
they
like, "No,
even
we're doing it
continue. I'm
again."
like, no, start again.
Yeah.
And everyone who has seen me at events and stuff
Yeah.
will know that that's how we roll, because
Yeah.
that is like the most efficient thing. And sometimes outside people might be like, oh, wow, she's like really bossy, or like, you know, she's like a bit strict or whatever. But that's just how we have to get things done, because we have a short amount of time to get like things done. And so we have to like snap, do it. But what I think that has improved so much is that their ability to perform. Like they have been in the industry, the socials game for a very long time, way longer than I have. And so for me to acknowledge that, obviously, that they have a lot of experience was super important, because coming in, I didn't want to be like, oh my God, okay, do this. Acknowledging their ideas as well, because if they have an idea, I'll be like, yes, that's great. Let's do that as well. So I think it's not just me coming from, I know everything.
No.
It's always acknowledging, okay, if you have an idea, like if you have a way we can do this better, let me know. But generally it is like me directing them and them performing. And it is a performance. It's not a like, be you, blah, blah, blah. It's a performance. You're putting on a show, you're entertaining. So I think that part has been really good as well. So yeah, we have 1 hour to bulk create, and then obviously I'll go back and edit it. But always come with a plan. And then usually I'll have like an order of importance.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we need to do this content, then this content, second priority.
Yeah.
And so we smash through it.
Look, and I think that there's something to be said as well about managing up. I think, you know, as before I owned my business, I worked for other people. And I think that so many people talk about like a top-down approach of like, you're the boss or you're the leader and like you're supposed to direct down. But no one talks about managing up, and no one talks about you're employed to do this job. It's your obligation to go, actually, this is what's going to help me do my job the best. I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And it's not bossy. I think bossy isn't it comes with females with a lot of negative connotations.
It's so true.
And I fucking hate it, and can do an entire episode on the fact that
should.
we, you know, use certain words to describe females that we wouldn't have
Use
the same
males.
connotations with males.
Yeah.
I could go on a tangent, but I won't. And I think that there's something to be said, you know, as an employee, like managing up is such an important skill to master, because it's not you sitting there being like, I know better than you. It's you saying, hey, you've hired me for this job. This is what I need in order to do my job well.
Yeah.
And that, you know, if a leader is threatened by that, they probably shouldn't have a team. But if a leader is threatened by somebody saying, hey, these are the things that I need to get from A to B in order to do my job that you hired me to do, is a really important skill to have.
Yeah.
Did you learn that as you went?
I think, it was fresh for me coming into this role. Like in my previous role, I usually worked with like models and UGC creators to sort of make that content happen.
Yeah.
So coming into this role where I was doing like more of the business employee and really getting the co-founders in on the content, it was fresh. So it's definitely a skill that I learned over time.
Yeah.
But I came from like a cheerleading background.
Okay.
And so performance and direction wasn't like that, you know, far from my skill set.
Of course.
So I definitely think that helped, having all those skills growing up. And
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Captaining teams. So I was like able to direct people and, you know, lead. So I think that was really beneficial for when I came into this role. And it was like I didn't have to like dive too much into the deep end, because I was pretty confident in my abilities.
No, I love that. I love that. Now, it's something that we, you know, talk about all the time, the balance between fun content and entertaining content. But then at the end of the day, Kik is a business.
Yep.
And you need to sell things, or you need to, you know, do things that convert people to either want to be part of the community or, you know, otherwise none of your roles exist. How do you balance the like salesy, like buy this content and the fun, entertaining, engaging content? Because I know firsthand the fun, entertaining, engaging content performs best.
Yeah.
But then you're like, at the end of the day, you do have to weave in that messaging of like, we've got this sale, or we've got this on sale, or this is new on our app, or this is a new thing that we're launching. How do you balance that content?
I think that's always something that's like we are continuously learning and
Yeah.
testing and like I don't think that we'll ever say that we have like something that is a cookie cutter work, like
Yeah.
a way to do this every single time. Like we will have structures and stuff like that, but we are always constantly testing new
Yeah.
ways and new styles of content. I think for Kick, we've sort of been able to lean into the entertainment a little bit more than
Yeah.
the education or the emotion.
Yeah.
Again, my 3 E's.
Yeah.
So I think that that's been really beneficial for us to balance like our actual converting content with the entertainment factor in mind. So like when I started, we used to do recipe videos, like just literally recipe videos, like no voiceover, no, I don't know, funny thing at the beginning. It was literally just a recipe, like our recipe content creator making the content for us. And then we tried so many ways, and we still are continuously trying so many ways. But what we found was if we added a bit of personality into our content, so a little bit of funny Steph and Laura at the beginning, or even Bailey or I, Bailey's like the Instagram girl. And so we've added a little bit of personality at the beginning of the content, and then the recipe video immediately after, and quadrupled the amount of
Interesting.
reach that it was getting. So I think for us, it's just leaning into what makes us good and what makes our content good. And for us, it's adding personality.
Yeah, I love it. Now for brands that aren't on TikTok,
Yeah.
is it too late?
No, never. I'll never say it's too late. I think though, when you are considering if you do start a TikTok or not, I think it's really important to understand like what it takes to actually have a successful TikTok.
Yeah.
I think that some brands might not be suited for TikTok.
Yeah.
So it depends like what your brand is, what your availability is to create
Yeah.
content. Like, do you have a person, or do you have the budget to hire a person to create content?
Yeah.
Is that something that's really valuable to you guys, or is it more like, should you actually be going down a different route? I think for some brands, like it has probably like fully changed their business being able to be on TikTok. So like if you are a brand that wants to do TikTok, make sure you do it well. So because I feel like some brands just like repurpose old content.
Yeah.
And
Don't half-ass it.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you actually want to do TikTok, do it well.
I agree. And also having an abundance of content, right? Like I think I see firsthand, like even with us, like we create content for my business, specifically with Instagram, but then we create separate content that there may be some crossover where we may use some of the videos across both.
Yeah.
But having enough content for TikTok is something that's so important. And I think that there's so many businesses that will come to us and say, we want to be on TikTok. And we're like, okay, cool. Like, do you have a bank of content that we can utilize?
Yeah.
Or are you available to shoot content fortnightly? Because that's what we need.
Yeah.
And I think that that's such a big misunderstanding about the platform, is how much content is required to actually be
100%,
successful.
yeah.
With that being said, how often do you guys post on TikTok?
Well, we used to do 3 a day last year, which is like so much. But sustainably, it wasn't really easy for me to be able to continuously create like valuable content.
Yep.
So we dropped it to 2 a day.
Okay.
And so now we're just doing like 14 a week roughly. Some weeks might be more, some weeks might be less. But yeah, we just do 14 a week.
And you're finding that that's getting the cut through?
I think that at the moment it's what's working for us.
Yep.
Because we like budget-wise, we only have me doing TikTok from start to finish. And then I'm like on a bunch of other things as well. So it's just balancing what our resources are with the amount of content we can put out. So it's like all we can do at the moment. Yeah.
No, I love. So it's just you on TikTok?
Yeah.
Just you?
Yeah.
No one else?
Literally from start to finish. Every content, all the engagement. yeah, everything.
I love that.
Yeah.
Go girl.
Thanks.
Killing it. Now, what do you, as someone that lives and breathes TikTok, like you are posting 14 videos a week,
Yeah.
you are creating this content from scratch, you're seeing what's trending, you're obviously spending a lot of time on the platform. I mean, a joke that I have with my social team is that I go to the meetings so that you can spend all day on TikTok, right? Like that's how this relationship works. They're always like, another meeting. And I'm like, yeah. I go to the meetings so you can do social. Like that's how this relationship works. I need to provide for this family and you guys do the social.
I'm the breadwinner.
Absolutely. What is one thing that you think is going to pop off on TikTok? Like what is one thing that you think is going to take off in the next kind of few months or 6 months or 12 months? What do you think is a trend that you're seeing having spent so much time on the platform?
Is this for brands or anyone?
Anybody.
I think for brands, what I'm seeing a lot of, which like people have really leaned into lately, is EGC.
Yeah.
Employee generated content. Putting the faces behind the brand, getting to know the people who are working on the business that you're buying from.
Yeah.
And building that trust between the business and the consumer. I think that's been really, really like leveling up. Like I've been seeing so many more.
Yeah.
And then also, which is what I sort of did last year, is like the boss employee deals
Yeah.
or pitches, presentations. They've been like popping off as well.
Yeah.
It's sort of getting a little bit saturated, and I think it's really important to like not continuously do that and not rely on that as your big thing, but it does work if you do it well.
Yeah, I think one of the things I notice or I see when I do spend time on the platform is it's really obvious to see the content that's created authentically and the content that's not. Like I know that there was a trend of like recording Zooms and like conversation that went on there, and it was like really obvious the conversations that were like just put on to, you know, for show to just get views versus the conversations that were genuinely recorded without somebody knowing.
Yeah.
What advice would you say, like if you see a brand, so for example, if I'm a brand and I'm like, oh wow, this trend is popping off at the moment where, you know, they record a conversation and it either gets really controversial or they offer them something that then the TikTok following or the community help them do. Like what's the best way to tackle that authentically?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one. Literally, like, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, I did that with Steph. I recorded our meeting and she had literally no idea. It's so funny to me. I think my bosses are so chill now. Like, not now. Like, they've always been pretty chill, but they know it works and they know that I wouldn't ever put anything out that they wouldn't, like, be happy with.
Yeah.
So I think that I am very lucky I can sort of get away with anything.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard also for me because they are on TikTok as well. So they sort of see the trends. So like sometimes when there's things that pop up, they'll be like, I know what you're doing. And then something will be,
Where's the camera?
I'll be like, I'm failing far out. Like I can't use this content now. Yeah. But okay, for brands that want to do content like that authentically, I think it's really important to realize like what you actually want to get out of that. And like, are you doing it to connect with the community or like grow your community?
Yeah.
Are you doing it to engage with the community? And how can you do that in a way that doesn't come across fake or like doesn't come across that you're like not trying too hard, but like we don't want to be a brand that like is begging to get people to follow us.
Yes.
We want to be a brand that people actually want to follow.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important too. You don't want to come across that's like, please give me this, please, blah, blah, blah. I need help, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's more like we're a really cool and we're a really fun brand and like you should follow us because of these reasons.
Yeah.
It's like showing people what value you bring to them rather than saying, I need you, because no one like owes you a follow. No one owes you this.
Yeah.
So,
and I also think the biggest like misconception on social media is that like people care. Like I think one of the biggest things is like, people don't care a lot about you. Like if they enjoy your content, they'll engage with it. If they don't, they'll keep scrolling.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've got to stop thinking that people, you know, especially when you're building a personal brand, like overthinking content, it's just like, just put it out there. Like create it, learn from it, keep going.
Exactly. Throw shit at the wall until it sticks.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Now, the last kind of question I have before we kind of go into our quick fire questions is one that I have, and it's more around trust. And I think it's really evident that, you know, Steph and Laura trust you. I think trust is imperative when it comes to hiring people to create content for them or for their brands. When it comes to building trust with people, but also in a workplace, obviously you spoke about becoming friends with them up front and developing an actual relationship that they feel as though they can kind of resonate with and rely on. But how important is it that your audience trust you and trust you to not lie to them or not tell them false information? Or, how do you develop trust with an audience that you can't necessarily build a friendship with?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think it is a difficult one. And I think working for a business, it is sort of a little bit harder than if it was for your personal brand. Like if it's for your personal brand, you can literally do whatever the heck you want. And I think for a business, being an employee of this like brand, it's a little bit tougher to build like the trust, because it's always like you're getting paid to say that. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the same concept as like when you do sponsored ads.
Yes, 100%,
right, as a personal brand.
yeah.
And it's like, well, obviously the moment you put ad there, people are like, well, she got paid to say that, so she mustn't like the product. So I think it's the same. It's like, it's something that I am still trying to learn with the people that do it well, of like, this is an ad, but like I still genuinely believe in this product and people trust that. And it's such a fine line that you walk down.
It is hard. I think for me, it's been really important showing like how much fun my life is at work.
Yeah.
So that people so I do chaotic days at Kick.
Yeah.
Is my like day in the life content. And I think for people to see that I actually truly do enjoy what I do, I think that's been really beneficial. And for people to get to know me over voiceovers or like through the videos, through those day in the lives, I think that's been really beneficial, because like it could just be a trend where I have text over the screen and they can like see my face, but they don't really get to know me as a person.
Yeah.
So I think that has been like really beneficial of people in the community trusting me.
I love that. I think trust is one of the biggest things, right? Like I think one of the biggest trends that is going to happen in the next 2 to 5 years is that businesses will be employing full-time content creators. They will have.
I've been seeing this. Shout out to Set Active. They've been slaying the TikTok.
Slay.
They actually hired someone who has their own personal profile, and all of his following has kind of come across to Set Active as well. And it doesn't feel like he works for the business. It just feels like he's like an intern, or like he's just doing a like work experience there. And he's like, guys, look at what I did today. I'm just like sitting in this meeting, because he's like not there to work. He's not there to work. It just feels like we're on FaceTime with him the whole time. So I think that is like what you've noticed just then, and you pointed it out. I think that's going to be really, really
I honestly think every business in the next 2 years will have employed content creators full time just to create content for their brands. And they don't have to necessarily have a role within the business, within social media or anything like that, but they're just, they live and breathe content creation. And it's like, if you can't as a brand create engaging, genuine content, find somebody who fits that brand. And it's almost like we've gone full circle with, when I grew up, you had the celebrities that were the faces of brands, and you'd buy a makeup product because there was a particular celebrity associated with it. And it's almost like it's come full circle in a sense, where we're now probably going to see these content creators starting at businesses and being employed by those businesses, but to just create content. And I think that's where we're going to be in the next kind of 2 to 3 years. Now, before we end, I've got quick fire questions.
All right.
The quick fire questions are questions that I ask everybody when they come on the podcast. And the first one is, name one brand that first comes to mind.
Duolingo.
Duolingo. Why?
I love Duolingo.
Okay.
They're so unhinged.
I love it.
I think I love the girl. I can't remember her name. Shout out to her. She was like the social media coordinator in 2021 when Duolingo first like popped off on TikTok.
Yeah.
And like then now Duolingo has an account for like each huge country, like Duolingo Japan, Duolingo I don't know, India, Duolingo USA. She's now like the global social media manager, which is like insane.
Wow.
So she manages all of the accounts. But I think what is so important of what they do is just like they make it feel like the owl, their mascot is like a real person. Totally. And they are so unhinged with their comments and so funny.
Yep.
Like there's this one, I don't know, you have to see them. There's this one where the United Kingdom, which is not actually the United Kingdom, it was like this random like fake 12-year-old probably who made the account and pretended to be the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Said like, oh, I don't want to learn your languages or something like that, because Duolingo is a language learning app, and it's replied back, learning languages is good for you, colonizer. And I was literally like, oh my God.
So unhinged.
So unhinged. Like, I don't think that we could ever make that statement as a brand.
No.
But like,
They get away with it.
they get away with it,
Yeah.
and they just are so cheeky. I think people sort of take like brands take marketing like so seriously. And when people can understand that like there are actual other people running the accounts and like things like that, I just think it's so important, because like consumers get bombarded with so many ads every single day, and the way like the marketing industry is moving is more towards like being real and raw and like being relatable.
Yeah.
So
and
I
more
think that-
human.
Exactly. More human, especially like AI coming in, blah, blah, blah. You
Yeah.
know, it's like you just want, people want to connect with the businesses before they can fathom purchasing from them.
Yeah.
So Duolingo, to have the common sections that they do, and like have this whole thing with Dua Lipa, Duolingo, Dua Lipa, they have like a crush on Dua Lipa. Like it's just the way they have intertwined themselves with pop culture is just crazy.
I love it.
And anyway, that's my.
Does it
like,
make you want to learn a language?
I don't know, maybe. I've always wanted to be like bilingual.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just don't know what language I'll learn, and I never really had the motivation. But eventually I want to be bilingual.
Okay. Vibes. I love that. What is one thing that you think keeps a business or a brand top of mind?
I think being relatable again. This is like, okay, so for us at Kik, people aren't always in the buying mindset. Like they might not be at a stage in their life where they need us, but for us to be relatable and to be funny and for people to connect with us, they still follow us. Like the amount of people that are like, oh, I've come back now, or like I didn't need it and now I'm back, or like I loved it and now I don't need it anymore because you've like given me the foundation and now I can go off and do whatever I want.
Yeah.
That is so important for us to be the top of mind when people are ready to purchase our product. But how we do that is by being constantly relatable and funny and engaging and like being in front of their face.
Yeah.
It sounded like in a bad way. We just want to be everywhere.
No,
But it is in a good way.
Absolutely, but I think it's the whole concept of staying top of mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, what more perfect place to talk about it than Top of Mind podcast? But
Exactly.
like, I think it's the whole premise of staying top of mind, right? It's like, I think there's some stat that's like, for a purchase under $500, 95% of your audience is not ready to buy.
Yeah.
5% are.
Yeah.
And then as that cost goes up, that percentage
Goes
decreases.
down, yeah.
In terms of only 1% or 2% are ready to buy. So I think it's like, yes, you've got to talk to the people that are ready to buy now.
100%.
But it's like, how do you capture the 95% of people that are not ready to buy
And I
right
think
now?
it's like adding value to their life. So why do they want to keep following you, or why should
Absolutely.
they keep engaging with your content? It's like, what value are you adding?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And last but not least, I always ask people, I love quotes.
Oh my God.
I love the impact of words. I think that if I was not so risk adverse when it came to tattoos, I think my body would be covered in quotes. But what is a quote that for you has always been top of mind? Now, it doesn't need to be like life-changing or like full of wisdom. It could be just something that you refer to on a weekly basis of like reminding yourself of something. Is there a quote that stays top of mind for you?
This is actually a funny story. So when I used to do cheerleading, one training was just chatting with my friends, blah, blah, blah. And we were talking about doing this skill, and I can't remember exactly what the situation was, but I'm sure this quote has been said before, but I always claim that I made it because I genuinely had never heard it before. So this is my quote: trying then failing is better than failing to try. And I genuinely live by it. Like, if we're not willing to try something new, it's like, why? What are you doing with your life? You should try, and if you fail, it's okay. Because failing is better than not even starting. So that's what we even say at like work and stuff. If we're trying new content or something new, a new style of content or a new trend or something that's a bit rogue for us, I'll always be in the back of my mind. I'm like, trying than failing is better than failing to try. Like, don't be embarrassed to try, because it's like, at least you've tried, you know?
I love that so much, and I'm definitely going to put that in my coffee table book that says Alice Harris as
please, as the quote.
Original founder of the quote.
Yeah.
Alice, thank you so much for sitting with me today. I've learned so much. I think not only is your own journey super inspiring as someone so young, and that's not meant to be said in a way that takes away from your success, because I feel like I see a lot of myself in you in terms of where, you know, you're starting and like how much you've achieved in such a short window of time. And that's just because you are innately passionate about what you do and you want people to, you know, feel that same passion around you. And I think that it's super exciting to see where you are now, and gosh, how far you've got to go. Like, you've got so much more ahead of you, which
So
is
exciting.
so exciting. Thank you so much for giving up your time today, because I've loved chatting. I know my team are extremely jealous of this conversation. They idolize you and they love the work that you do. And they're like, see, if Alice did it, like, we can do it. Like, I think it's just such a great standard that you set, not only for people within the health and fitness industry, but people generally that are like, you know, stepping out of their comfort zone and doing something that they are passionate about. So thank you so much for spending time with me
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Before you go, help us grow and reach more people by hitting the subscribe button and leaving us a review.
Black boys.